Happy 2026, everybody. Andrea here. So, what I always do at the beginning of the year, or sometimes even the end of the year, so now we're kind of jumping to the beginning, but I talk about bookkeeping. And if you're making money in your own business, even if you think you're not making enough money yet, it's just kind of a side hustle, it doesn't really matter. It does matter. Bookkeeping talk today. So, what is bookkeeping and why do you have to do it for your business? So, bookkeeping is basically keeping track of the books. And what does that mean? It means keeping track of income and your expenses. Because what I don't want you to do is we all have to pay taxes, right? This is inevitable. But I don't want you to go to your accountant, give them summaries of all of your income, but then you're not giving them your list of expenses as well. Because what ends up happening is you're going to be paying a lot more come tax time than if you had listed your expenses. And the easiest way to keep track of all of that is to have a separate bank account for personal and a separate bank account for business. Any expense you have in your business, any income you make from your business needs to go into one account. So, a separate business bank account, have a checking account, have a savings account, but also have a separate business credit card. I own multiple businesses, including where I teach. So, I have teaching courses, training courses. I'm a mobile dental hygienist where I see patients, so that's a separate business entirely. But I have separate bank accounts for every single business that I have because I need to keep track of it properly. And of course, if you think about it, if I buy a new computer monitor, that's going to be a really good business expense for my tutoring business, but it has nothing to do with me seeing patients, right? So I wouldn't put that expense under my mobile dental hygiene business because that's not proper bookkeeping. Bookkeeping also means you have to keep everything organized. And when you go to submit your taxes, you could have to pay penalties if things aren't organized and if they don't understand what you're submitting. So, at the very least, definitely get an accountant. So, if you're doing your own bookkeeping like I do, you can submit the paperwork to your accountant and they kind of know where to put things before they submit come tax time. And every accountant has always told me make sure to list your expenses as well, because you can make $1 million from your business, but if hypothetically you don't have any expenses, well, guess what? They're going to take a lot of tax from you. But anytime you have an expense, that's being taken out of the income you're making. And this is why, if you go to get a house, as an example, if you're applying for a mortgage, if you have a lot of business expenses and some income, it's going to look like you actually don't make as much money as you do because the bank considers your expenses and it works against your income. But that's good come tax time. The less money you make come tax time, the less money you pay. Thinking about it a different way, the more money you make, the more money you pay come tax time. But I've said it before, we all have to pay taxes. That's just the world we live in, right? A lot of us see it as unfair, paying 54% in some cases, depending on how much you're making for taxes, is crazy. You're basically giving the government half. More than half of what you're making. Again, this depends on the income you're making, but make sure to list out your expenses against your income and your accountant will know what to do. So be organized, have separate bank accounts, have separate credit cards for business and personal, and then keep everything organized in a software in QuickBooks or a spreadsheet or kind of however you want to do things. And get started right away because it's so much harder to play catch up and reorganize later on. So be organized now. It doesn't matter how little of an amount you might be making. If you think this is just a side hustle for you, a side business, it doesn't matter. When you're making money from your business, any expense you've had to pay towards your business, keep it all together and that will really serve you well. So let me know if there's any questions. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one.